Summit Healthcare and welcoming Wayne Memorial Hospital. And I have with us today both Joe Austin and Tim Fail, both part of the IT team there at Wayne Memorial, supporting the integration and automation side of the technology, of course, amongst many other, I'm sure. Joe and Tim presented their automation technology leveraging the Summit Scripting tool in their Meditech 6.0 environment at the Meditech Users International Conference at the end of May. And we thought we'd bring this again to the Meditech community. So I also want to just do a few housekeeping items. We are going to provide a copy of the PowerPoint. I also am taping through video today so that we have access to the PowerPoint for folks to see at a later time. And please, if you could hang on, I'm also planning to make sure everyone can I just want to make sure everyone can hear me from an audio standpoint. I did open the line for everybody. I also wanted to let you know that Brian Rogers is joining us, who is our product manager of the Summit Automation Technology. So if you could stay on, we'll do a Q&A and a short look at the technology as well, just to give you a flavor as to how that looks as well. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Joe and Tim for the presentation.
Thank you, Tara. As Tara said, my name is Tim Fail, and Joe Austin here with me. We're going to do a little talking. We've condensed this presentation or PowerPoint down and took some of the actual Summit screens out. Since Brian's going to be doing a demo afterwards, we didn't feel like we needed to beat the horse twice. So we're going to kind of show you the Meditech side of it, and a couple of videos. You'll be able to see Summit in there as well. Here at Wayne Memorial, we're 316-bed hospital. We're seeing roughly about 60,000 ED visits a year. We have 10 ancillary offices that are made up of plastic surgeons and general physicians and things of that nature. We went live with Magic in 1995. We converted over to 6.0 in 2008. We were the third hospital to do a full conversion from Magic over to 6.0. We're currently running 6.05 with a PP13, and we have roughly about 30 to 32 folks in our IT department. I'm a senior financial analyst. I've been here at Wayne for about 10 years, and the modules that you see below are the ones that I'm responsible for, along with the third-party vendors that interface with these folks.
And my name's Joe Austin. I've been here at the hospital a little over 5 years. Came out of the Air Force where I did programming for air traffic control systems there, and kind of fell into a software job here. Really started out doing HL7 interfaces, started picking up some SQL stuff, and then got into scripting in a Meditech very, very large when we decided to migrate from the Magic into the 6.0 platform. So that's where most of my scripting experience lies, is in the 6.0 and above, even though I have done some stuff in Magic, and it works really well in Magic as well. The majority of the scripts that I've gotten, that I've written, are in 6.0 or above. Some of the things we're going to talk to you today about are how we've actually been able to save money by not needing to add additional staffing. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of projects that come up and they're due at the end of the month, and a lot of them are dealing with our finances, that we have to have the information in before the end of the month so it can be accounted for correctly. Well, we've written a couple scripts that we'll show you here in just a few minutes that actually allow us to turn what used to take quite a few hours into just a few hours worth of time now. And we're going to show you how we've used the scripting to actually improve the accuracy of the data that we put in, and we're going to kind of show you how it can be run any time of the day. I've got a demonstration on that where our users actually drop a file into a shared folder, and once that file is there, the Summit scheduler actually moves the file into an area, executes the script, puts the data in, sends back a confirmation email whether or not the information was put in there correctly or not, and notifies the user at that time as well that their information has been put in there.
And we're also going to show you how we use this across all modules, from all the finance modules for registering patients to billing and accounts receivable, materials management. We use it some in the focus dictionaries and MIS for order management for the OM side. I mean, we've done some stuff for PCS as well. So we're going to show you how it's not only just an NPR, but it's also, we call it focus because that's what it was when we come up on it, but now it's called the MAT or MAT modules. The biggest thing that we want to stress is programming is not required. This is so easy to do with just a little bit of knowledge that you can learn by basically doing hands-on. If you can manually do it by using your mouse and going to because that's basically what you're going to do on the version of Summit that we use, which is SST7. We use a lot of data collector and text grabber, which makes it a lot easier to where we can build the script using a point-and-click method versus a programming code method.
And when he's talking about the data collector, we're going to show you that here in just a few minutes, how, because data collector probably doesn't mean anything to you right now, but as we get into a few of the short demo videos, it'll make a little more sense to you. Tim, I'm going to let you talk about the MM script since that's one of the ones that you recently did.
This here is a script that we did for materials management and accounts payable for an outside vendor for GHX. And what happened was our facility was doing purchase orders on paper, and it was a three-part purchase order where the end user got a copy, purchasing got a copy, and accounts payable got a copy of the purchase order. So GHX come in and they created a system for us to where our end user logs into a website almost similar to Amazon or Walmart.com, and they pick the items they would like to order for their department for here at the hospital. And GHX drops a file to us, and that file is just a raw file. We pick it up automatically. This is on a scheduled run. So anytime GHX drops a file in this folder, we pick it up and we script that into materials management. Now, I know you kind of think, why would you script it into materials management? But we got to make sure that fixed assets and general ledger and accounts payable gets the information as well. So we have to bring it from GHX back over to materials management to get the ball started. So we create the PO, we add the lines to the PO, and then we file it. And then our folks over in purchasing, we leave it in a working status, and then they confirm it and send it over EDI to our outside vendor. Now, GHX was going to charge us $38,000 to do the scripting for us. We kind of sit there and said, we can do the scripting ourselves, so we saved us $38,000 the first year by writing the script ourselves, and then it's an additional $6,000 to $8,000 yearly maintenance that we're saving just by us maintaining it here. But the other benefit about that, not only is we're saving money, but Joe and I can manage it here versus having to pick up an 800 number and call GHX and saying, hey, we're having a problem with the script, or the Meditech screen changed, and then we have to wait anywhere from a 2 to 14-day turnaround to get that fixed. It's nice that we can do it ourselves here. The next one is posting credit scores and status into billing and accounts receivable. This is where we send out information to third-party credit ratings like Equifax and TransUnion, and they send us back a credit score and a status on that individual, and we're posting that back into the BAR patient account screen at the customer-defined level. It's a customer-defined screen at a query level. So whenever they drop us that large file, Joe can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe we're dropping it 2 times a month, and we're running that, and it's saving us roughly 30 hours a month, and that's based off of what our billing and accounts receivable or business office was telling us it was taking them to key that twice a month, roughly 30 hours.
And if you look at the third one down there, that's the bar post comments to a patient account. That is a script that we run quite a few times. Well, actually, it runs daily. And what happens there is it's the same process. An outside vendor actually FTPs a file to us, and we have Summit Scheduler that is actually looking at that directory every 20 seconds. And if a file drops within those 20 seconds, it goes ahead and picks up that file, opens up Meditech, and goes in to put in data. Now, this data may be anywhere from 3 or 4 words to 3 or 4 paragraphs of information that's actually put into Meditech. So the fact that we don't have to have our folks over in accounting cutting and pasting that information into it, they estimate that it saves us about 200 hours every month.
And that is for a company called Relay Health. And that is, they handle all of our Medicare secondary offerings. So any patient that rolls in that has Medicare as a secondary insurance, those are getting worked as an outside company, and then they're the ones that are sending the comments back to us, and we're posting those at the account level.
And the last one that you see down there, the bar post payments from collection agencies, that's run once a month, and that was the one where at times we would have to pull people off of various other projects that they were doing to make sure that we could meet the end of the month deadline for that data. And what happens now is that file is sent to us, and it's basically split up into 3 different areas, 1 being regular accounts, 2 being Medicare, and the 3rd one being Medicare inactive accounts. And that script now takes a couple hours to run versus 40 hours worth of time to put in every month. Let me tell you about the File Drug Dictionary, CPOE. Basically, we had to synchronize our live and test dictionaries. Now, we had Meditech that offered to pull everything over and synchronize everything for us, but the pharmacist didn't want to bring all of the information in. They just basically wanted to bring specific tabs and specific information out of the dictionary. So what we did is we went in and put a custom code in test under the drugs, and if they did an edit to that drug, they would remove that code. And once that code was removed, we would know at the end of the project, these are all of the drug mnemonics that we need to update. And we brought the test data into live. And when I say that, that kind of sounds strange, but they got everything up to date in test that they wanted. So this is where accuracy really comes into account. And we've got a way of actually validating that all of that information was brought over from test and put into live correctly. So once we ran the script and brought it in, we ran the validation process and confirmed that we were 100% correct in everything that we actually brought in.
The next one is the cost accounting, and that was where our accounting department said they wanted to start using the resource and service unit dictionary for materials management and pharmacy. So in order to do that, we checked with Meditech and found out everything that had to be set up. And in order to do it, we had to add a little over 1 million values to cost accounting to be able to track everything for MM and pharmacy in the service unit dictionary. I don't know if you can even imagine an individual or a whole department adding 1 million values, how long it would take and how many fat fingers would be done. But if you took 1 million values at just a 2% error rate, which I would consider a low error rate, you're looking at over 20,000 errors. So we were able to do this in a timely manner. We did it from an Excel spreadsheet, and we ran this on 4 different virtual machines at the same time. And if it ran for 24 hours a day on those 4 machines, it was going to roughly take about 15 days to run. So that tells you the volume of items that was added into the service unit dictionary. The next one is a very similar setup. It was the bar procedure dictionary. And we started using revenue sites for our PICSA stations out of materials management. So that way our departments could see how much revenue was coming back to them. They knew how much they were being expensed, but they didn't know what all of our revenue was being dumped in one bucket. And they said, hey, I think it's fair enough if you're going to expense me for 100, I should be able to see I'm getting 300 in revenue. So we used revenue sites to do it. We had 44 revenue sites, and we had to add those to 26,000 procedures. So there again, the accuracy is the key to make sure that the revenue sites are set up correctly to all 26,000 procedures. That in itself was a very lengthy process. We did it very efficiently and very quickly with the Summit Scripting on that. So,
and this is Joe. We'll show you a quick demo on that as well. What we also decided to do with that, so we wouldn't be in the same situation, we brought live and test up to date with all the bar procedure revenue site codes. And now when our users actually create a new site, they basically drop an Excel file into a folder that's on their desk, and it takes just the mnemonic and builds everything in test, as well as puts in the revenue site data in test and in live. And if they need to update prices, they can update prices the exact same way. If they go in and update those prices in live, or update any information on the procedure dictionary tabs, and they drop that file back into the script, it will run back through and update the information in the test side as well. And we'll be showing you that here in just a moment.
We're going to show you or talk to you a little bit about tips and tricks before we show you the demos. The first one is create a single script name for your global segments. And what we're basically doing there is so that way we're not creating the same global segment each time we build a new script. We're able to just copy and use that into multiple scripts. So if you're logging into Meditech, there's no point in recreating that wheel every single time you create a script. It makes it a lot easier, and it's just a lot cleaner. And it's a lot easier whenever you're editing after Meditech makes a change, because you're just making a change to that one global segment, which is going to update your scripts versus making an edit to all your scripts.
And we found that creating a script user also makes things a lot nicer as well. When you create a script, and we'll show you here in a moment, it grabs all the information at the top of the Meditech screen, including your username. We try and clear all that information out, but inevitably there may be one or two screens that we forget or miss, and it'll hang on a new user. So we found that just creating one user and writing our scripts and running our scripts through that one user account has allowed us to eliminate a lot of those issues as well. And that's where the partial caption comes in. You know, where we're taking our name out, and we'll show you a few tips that we've learned to maybe allow your scripts to run after Meditech does an update and not have to update as much stuff, especially when they change the header at the top of the screen, and that'll be one of the tips that we show you.
Automated scripts. We've gotten to where we religiously rely on this, and we have some virtual machines and then another hard box that is got their drop every 5 process. And a lot of these, Joe and I don't even intervention between. They drop and they automatically pick up, they automatically process. If there's an issue, it will send us an email based off of the way we have the error set up. If there's no issues, if we want to know that it's completed, we have it set up to send us a completed email, so that way us and also the end user knows that it has ran. So the automated scripts has been a big time saver for, especially if we're not here, we know that it's running. And the other thing that we like about the scheduler is we can pick what days that we want it to run. So for example, I have one that runs in my office, and I only want it to run between 8:30 and 5 o'clock Monday through Friday. And I'm able to tell it to do that, so I don't have to even worry about pausing it or stopping the script after 5 or on weekends.
We're going to show you our desktop as far as the virtual machines that we use. I think now we're up to about 7 different virtual machines that we have that we use throughout the facility. And if you're going to do scripting, we recommend multiple monitors. And that's just for the ease of building your scripts and actually troubleshooting them. This right here is just one of our virtual machines that you can see. And this is one that we only use for one thing, and it's entering the daily comment files. And if you see over here to the right, and I'll see if I can move my mouse, where it's got the 20 seconds, it's basically checking every 20 seconds to see if that file exists. If it exists, it's going to send an email out, move that file, run a script, then run a command to rename that file so we can archive it, giving us the date and time that it finished, and then we move that file into another directory. Now, the script itself actually sends out an email to us and the user saying, I'm completed with this script, and it gives them the status and a status of how the script processed as well when it's all done. Now, when I said using multiple monitors, this is my desktop right there. And if you see the top two screens, that's where I run the majority of my scripts, and most of the time it's open with 4 or 5 different virtual machines at any one time. And when the script kicks off, I can see it kick off in the top right-hand corner, and I don't really watch it run. I just verify that it kicks off and everything appears to go okay. Now, what we'd like to show you real quick is a pharmacy video, and what it's going to demonstrate, we took data from 2 different areas, an Excel file, and we actually scraped data out of Meditech itself and pulled it in from test and brought it into live. And I'm going to see if I can slide this over. Okay, what you're going to see right here, and I hope everyone can see it and it looks all right, that's the Excel sheet of the information that was given to us, and it's got the mnemonic and the IDs and stuff like that. And I'm just going to kick this off to run, but it's going to grab information out of there. It's also going to grab information out of Meditech, and you're getting ready to see the scheduler that we use to run these I'm sorry, not scheduler, K2 runner that we use to run the scripts that we generate. Okay, what you're seeing right now, that is K2 runner, and this is just the top thing is the data loop, and then the global segments underneath are run depending on whether it's in test, whether it's in live, and it's all based on variables that are written within the script as far as where the data is pulled from. And it should kick off here in just a second. And as you see right now, I'm going through and grabbing information, and we kind of slowed this up just a little bit so it would make sense. And basically when I get into tests and I'm in, or when I get into the area where I want to make sure that it's the same, I go through and I start deleting out all of the dose types. And on this script that we wrote, the area that they wanted us to do was OM right here, the OM strings, and the doses under strings as well. So what we did is we cleared out all the old values to make sure that there wasn't anything left in there, and then all this data we have actually copied from the Excel sheet, and the other data where we typed in under OM, we actually gathered that data from Meditech because it wasn't something that I could find in the DR to be able to pull information from.
And while this is running, one thing is Summit will run much faster than Meditech, so that's one reason why we slowed it down a little bit so you'd be able to see it and actually know what's going on versus just seeing a blur.
As you see, I think this puts in about 26 different dose values. And should be done here in just a few moments. But after that completes, basically that just ran up in a virtual machine. When the script actually completed, it sent an email to me and the pharmacist saying that it was complete. And then at that point in time, we basically just generated another SQL report out of the DR and validated that all the information was correct. And I just showed you one there because I didn't want to. It basically does the same thing for the rest of them. See, I'm going to show you Tim's GHX video, and that's got some actual talking that goes with it. He kind of made this with his iPhone, so hopefully everything will look right. And if you want to set this video up real quick, Tim?
Yeah, that's fine. This is what you're looking at right here is the scheduler. It's looking every 10 seconds to see if a file's dropped. I'm going to show you how that's going to work. Try to explain it to you a little bit in the video. Hopefully you'll be able to hear it. It's going to kick off, and after that, you'll see it process, send an email, and let me know that everything was successful.
Hopefully this sounds right.
Looking at the Summit scheduler. I've got it paused right now just to show you this video. What that scheduler is doing is it is actually looking in this folder right here to see
Hi, Tim and Joe. It's Kara Markey from Summit. I just wanted to make sure you folks were still on the audio component. We may have lost you.
Hey, Tara, you back?
We are, yeah. I can hear you.
I'm sorry. We realized there's going to be too much reverb on that. So I'm going to start this from the beginning and just let Tim kind of explain what's going on. We accidentally hung up there.
Oh, no problem. Okay, thanks.
all right, here's your scheduler. And like I said, it's just looking every 10 seconds. And over on this far right monitor, it's going to show the folder where I'm looking for a file. And I've got it paused right now so you can see the file. And whenever I unpause that scheduler and start running, it's going to see that file and it's going to pick it up, and then it's going to process it with the K2 runner. It's going to create everything in Meditech. You can see right here that there's no emails in my inbox. It's going to also send me a successful notification that the PO was created. So I'm going to hit run on the scheduler. Shouldn't take much more than 10 seconds. There's the K2 kicking off. It's going to run through. It's going to get all the data. It's going to send me an email right here saying, hey, I just picked up the file. That lets me know that it started. It's going to come back over. It's going to log into Meditech. It's in the materials management module. It's creating a PO. And this is roughly, we do about 100 of these a day. And this is 100 POs that our purchasing department was manually entering. So now it's going to go down and it's going to add the lines to the POs based off of what was in the file. Whenever we finish with this, what's going to happen is we're going to send a file back to GHX saying that it was successful. We drop it in a folder, and then they're looking every so often to see if we drop them a file. And if so, they pick it up and they process it back, and it attaches the PO number that you see at the top left to the rec ID that they have in their system. So that way the end user can see how they both go hand in hand. This has got another line to add, and then it'll be finished here. There's a lot of variables in this one here because there's so many different possible purchase orders that can be done as far as capital, purchase, service, returns, miscellaneous. You can see at the bottom that the K2 runner is still running. And that's where it's actually processing the file and creating the file to send back to GHX. And you're going to see it's going to delete this file in the folder. There it goes. It's gone. It's moved it to another folder and renamed it. And you can also see that it sent me a successful email at the very top letting me know that everything went as planned. And then right down here, you're going to see where it pops up, and that's where it actually renames the file that they had dropped and I give it a unique naming convention so I can come back and find it if there's an issue with the PO at a later date and time. So there's your GHX demo of kind of how we are scheduling it, picking it up, processing it, sending something back to the vendor, notifying the end user, and clearing the folder out, waiting for the next file.
And our last video that we're going to show you right here is going to be one where we've updated all of our bar procedure revenue sites, and this one actually just shows you how we keep it up to date on a daily basis anytime anything is actually run. Okay, what you're going to see here, and let me just pause it real quick. I'm going to simulate the user, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually move this revenue site data here into the folder, and I just basically am at the shortcut that would be on their desktop, and you're going to see it get picked up and processed through from start to finish. Now, I have edited this script since it was originally written. When I first wrote it, it was written in 3 individual scripts. I recently updated it, and now it runs in one single script. But this is the very first script, and this was the computer going in, opening up Live, and going into the bar procedure dictionary and just adding the revenue sites. And the reason it was originally written this way is because that's all they asked me to do. I kind of took it upon myself to help out the user and put it in test and keep test up to date as well, and create the mnemonic and information in the test dictionary as well. Now, the first page under the General tab, that information was already there, and that's required to be put in by the user. But as you see, we're putting in all the revenue sites right now, and it'll do this for all 42 or 43 of them. And then what will happen after that is it will close this out, and that's how the first script was requested to be written. And a lot of times we'll evaluate the scripts when they come to us, and we'll base them off of need, because sometimes they'll come to us with a script that it's actually quicker for the user to just go ahead and put the information in. They've got 50 values that they need put into Meditech. Well, by the time I generate the script and test it, it's not worth our time to do that. So when we evaluate scripts to do, we're actually looking for something that's going to save the hospital a significant amount of time. And I'll give you, for example, we have 3 different schools that do a lot of nursing training with us. So we've set up the dictionaries to go in and add these new nursing students every time. And it was created once. Well, we put in 50 students for each school, and it goes into the person dictionary and adds them and sets them up in there, and then brings them into Live and sets them up as well. Okay, now we're actually logging into test on this one. I don't have one that was recently added. So what I did in test is I went in and changed a couple values in test and deleted some of them out. And if you look at the amount in test, when it actually comes up, it'll be 0. Now we're logging into Live, so we can grab the information out of Live and move it into test. Okay, all the information that's under the General tab, I'm actually reading that and putting it into variables. And if you see the effective date and charge, I'm getting ready to delete the effective date and charge out, and then I just put that in. And what that allows them to do is sometimes they'll update that information and they want it put into test. So it deletes out anything that's there and copies an exact replica of what's in test just through a loop. It goes until it no longer sees any data in that information. And then this here is the finishing steps on this script. It's actually writing in all those values. After this is done, it runs a quick script to send out an email and tell the user if there was an error with any of the data processed or whether everything processed correctly. And that Excel file is sent to myself as well as the user, and then it's actually stored in an archive directory. So we've got that information should we ever need to refer back to it. And that's the last part of the script that's running right there.
Joe and I would like to thank everybody, and we want to make sure that everybody knows that we dressed up for the WebEx today. So we hope y'all enjoyed it as much as we did. And Tara, if there's any questions they want to direct towards us, or if Brian wants to go ahead and do his demo, however you want to roll out with it, go ahead.
Sure, absolutely. I appreciate that. It looks like there are a few questions coming in, so maybe we could start the questions and then just see where we're at with time. I think you guys did a really great job showing, you know, some of the technology. So, but I certainly want to, you know, leave a little bit of time for Brian to show as well. But I just had a few questions, if I could read those off. And the first one was just whether or not you wrote any scripts in the Magic 5.6.4 or 5.6.6, or if only the scripts were written in 6.0. And I think you may have mentioned that early on, but if you could just clarify that.
I have written some older scripts in Magic, and basically that was for various things as far as adding printers, adding devices. When we brought the new emergency room online, they wanted to update a bunch of information there. So I wrote a script, and those are actually very easy to write. You don't have to worry as much about screen scraping. It's more or less just how many tabs to get to the position in the screen that I want, and what's the number to get to that screen, and running it that way. As a matter of fact, a lot of times if I run a one-time script, I just get to the screen that I want to put the information in and just run through that script and execute F12 to save it and continue running to put the data in. So yeah, we have done some of those, and they're very easy to do. As a matter of fact, one of our guys that does our NPR stuff, he has over 5,200 NPR reports. He used the tool to actually go in and grab all the data out of NPR and archive all of his reports. So it can be used, and it's very easy to use in that environment as well. I hope that answers it.
It does, yes. Thank you. And also, have you ever been willing to share your scripts? I don't know if that would be something you not to put on the slide, but certainly think about it. This is just a request from one of the participants.
We've been asked that before, and whenever we, you know, talk to the folks, the thing was their screens are so, I'm not going to say different, but even run it on a different monitor based off of the resolution, that could make it so finicky. That's why we write ours on the virtual machines, because all of our virtual machines are set up the same way. I think sharing it would be hard, but I would be more than glad to let them see how it's built so they can build it similar to it.
Yeah, if they're just looking to look at them for logic purposes, yeah, we wouldn't mind sharing those out at all. I have to say I'm a terrible programmer because I don't document a lot of my stuff, because I just know how I'm writing it, and if I'd ever have to go back to them, you know, I really have to think about them for a moment. But if you kind of read through them, they make sense. So it's really pretty easy to follow, and I guess that's probably why I don't document a lot of the times, is because the documentation is not normally needed. But yes, we would be willing to check it out.
Okay, great. And I can get, you know, folks obviously have your emails here that we're showing on the screen. Just a few additional questions that you may be able to answer. What virtual server do you use, and the amount of RAM on them, if you know that offhand?
I do know that. I have got, one second, I'll pull it up. I've got I want to say 4 processors and 16 gigs of RAM on all of our machines. And you see I've got some that are written down here. There are some that someone may send me a file once a month, and it may have a variable that I can't control or know, like maybe a certain well, I wasn't going to say date, but like they wanted to go into a certain, I don't know, number file or something of that nature that I can't program logically into the script. So I'll go into the screen and actually get to where I need to be, and then just run the script by, yeah, like a batch number or something, by clicking right here. But our virtual machines are actually pretty beefy, and we found that that actually helps us out. 16 gig of RAM, and I said 4 processors, but I guess it's 2.
Okay, great. And also for the folks online, Summit Healthcare would provide, specifications as well when you're evaluating the technology, and you would have those. Just a couple other questions here. Are the scripts single-threaded, so if it fails, will other scripts fail to run? I don't know if you're able to answer that, or of course, Brian Rogers could certainly assist.
I have mine with if variables.
No. I think they're asking if one script gets stuck, will it stop all the scripts from running? Or are they saying if the script has an error, will it stop all the rest of them from running? I'm not. I know we, in our scheduler, most of our schedulers, and that's why we've got 7 different machines, only handle a couple different applications or scripts at one time. So we may have, like the one that Tim's got currently for GHX files, that's the only application or the only script that's running on that scheduler. Now we're getting ready to run 2 more onto it, but if it fails at some point in time, it will actually time out and send us an email saying that there's an error and process the next script. So that's not normally an issue with us. I hope that answers it.
I think so. Thank you. And the great questions coming in. Just really quick, and I can answer this one. Lori was asking about runtime licensing versus developer licenses, and that is exactly the model that Summit Healthcare provides our customers. You have your developer licenses, which allows you to edit, create, of course, and even run your scripts, and then you have your general runtime licenses that just execute. And I believe, Joe and Tim, you guys likely probably have our enterprise model where you just have unlimited developers and unlimited runtime. You may not know that, but in terms of the contract, but we, a lot of flexible models to meet the different organizations' needs. This is more around usability. If you folks can answer this, how hard was the scripting software to learn, and can you compare it, if you feel comfortable, to others that you may have worked with in the past?
Well, I've used Boston Workstation before, and I think if you've used that or ever used a scripting tool that's similar to that, it's very easy to use. And actually, I didn't even use Boston Workstation until I had been working with Summit. So I guess that kind of, I think it's very easy. And I'm not sure how big your workbook is that comes with it. Basically, I had printed that out and started looking through it. And when I say it's not many pages, it gives you probably about 45 pages of a how to get started manual. And I went through that, and what I wasn't able to understand with that, I actually looked at a couple videos online that are in Summit's training area to kind of answer some of the questions that I had. And then I would also hit tech support up with questions that maybe we couldn't figure out. But I think it was very easy to get started. Tim's never had any programming experience whatsoever, and he can kind of tell you.
I've been scripting now with Summit a little over a year. The GHX script that you see, I pretty much built myself, along with I've done somewhere around 25 to 30 scripts. Some of them are one-times and some of them are scheduled. It's really easy. The main thing is taking the time to learn it, and I would say it's like anything. The more you do it, the easier it's going to be. But I don't have any programming education. Mine was business with a minor in CIS, but no programming. And like Joe said, he did it like I think it was a 30-day trial with Boston Workstation. But we just found that Summit was much easier to use. The support was much better.
Scripts ran quicker.
The scripts ran quicker in Summit than they did in Boston. We like Summit. We've been on Summit for over close to 7 or 8 years now.
Yeah, and you've definitely seen the different iterations and the different adapted to the different needs as the Meditech platforms have changed. So we appreciate.
I'm sorry, Karen. The biggest thing that we noticed was Summit was the only one that could handle Meditech 6.0 like the way we use it. So that was the biggest selling point right there for us.
Thank you. Just a couple other questions, and for those folks who can still hang with us, I'll certainly keep the line open. I do, Brian is going to show kind of a look at the actual technology tool. And as I mentioned, I am taping this session, so if anyone does have to drop off, I'll make sure that you get access to the full video. Just a couple of other questions here. Nancy was wondering if Wayne Memorial there was using the actual dictionary synchronization software, which is called Summit Instinct. I don't believe you folks are. I know you're just using Scripting at this point. Just for those folks on the line, the Summit Instinct technology is a specific technology platform reserved for dictionary management and synchronization. Now, Wayne and Tim and Joe had talked about how they are leveraging Scripting to do some of that synchronization. The differences in the technology is that Summit Instinct will go in and do a direct extraction of the database and the dictionary information, and it presents in a color-coded analysis tool of side-by-side discrepancies, rather. And the Scripting tool, of course, allows for that information to be automated back into your Meditech environment. And Joe, I know, Joe and Tim, I know you guys have looked at it. At this point, I know your organization isn't using it, but you have had some success with updating the dictionaries just via Scripting.
Yeah, you're correct. And we are actually looking at it and talking to our CIO. That's one of the products that we would like to bring online here. And the reason why we'd like to bring it online, if anyone there deals with the DR, you know that all the data that's in Meditech is not actually in the DR. I'm not an NPR programmer at all. Even though I've went to the courses and can do it, I would rather cut my hand off than do it. I'd much rather write SQL and get data out that way. So, but all the data is not there. So that's one of the reasons why we're looking at InSync and, want to actually bring it online here so we can validate our information to our dictionaries a little bit quicker.
Okay, great. And there's actually just one more question, and then I'm going to turn it over to, and of course, folks, if you think of additional questions, type them in and we can get them answered for you. This goes back to the actual script around the payment and adjustment posting. And if you can answer that, it's from Lori. Can we build rules into the payment and adjustment posting relative to the cash codes that were posted? And I don't know if you, I think she's just asking more about, rule building, and if either of you have any experience with that.
Now, the payment that we were posting back in bar. Now, I'm not sure what she means by rule. We don't use rules here in bar for our PFS department or billing office. I tell you what, have Lori just email me directly, and I'll be more than glad to discuss that with you, because I might be just missing what the question is.
Yeah, and that certainly happens sometimes in the webcast. And also for Lori and anyone else, certainly reach out to Joe and Tim, and if, of course, if they aren't able to answer the question, we can certainly push it back over to Brian Rogers, our product manager, who has a ton of experience with the different types of scripting and all of our clients. So with that, questions are done. Again, if folks can stay on, we still certainly have a few more minutes to jump here into the technology. So even, and then of course too, if Tim and Joe, you can hang on too, just in case we do have a few additional questions. Brian, I'm going to go ahead and make you the presenter so we can take a look at the technology.
Okay, thank you, Tara. Can you hear me okay?
I can, yes.
All right, thanks. And good afternoon, everybody. And big thank you to Tim and Joe. I think that was a great presentation and a lot of great examples. A better demo than I can give, but what I'll do is just give a quick introduction and sort of an overview of sort of what the tool looks like, sort of how we develop the scripts and some of the methodologies here. I'll be quick. Again, if there are any questions, please feel free to type them in. I noticed a question did just come in about Tim and Joe's email addresses, and we'll definitely get those out as long as that's okay with them as part of the follow-up to the presentation. Okay, so we're looking at the Summit Scripting Toolkit here in the development environment, what we call the workflow browser. The script itself is contained in this bottom section here, and it's broken out into what we call script segments. So you can see I've got a segment called login, I've got a segment for processing data, and then there's the section at the bottom called global segments, which Tim and Joe talked about a little bit as well. So the reason these segments are here are for a couple of reasons. Primarily they help keep the script very readable. So you can compartmentalize your code. If I look inside the login segment, I can see just the specific command